Hello and welcome. This is your internet storyteller, and tonight we will visit forgotten lands and enchanted forests. Tonight's story is very special to me, since my dear grandmother used to count it to me and my brother all the time. A story that displays the strong bond between siblings and the blind cruelty some people are capable of. Please enjoy the Moroccan Rapunzel. In times gone by, there was a little girl named Habya. She and her younger brother lived in a magnificent clay-brown kasbah, along with their loving mother, and a father who ruled as sultan for their nation. The children spent most their days playing in the kasbah's garden. Nestled on the edge of an ancient forest, the garden was a haven of tranquility, laid out in an Andalusian style and filled with flower bushes of all kind, but the kids couldn't care less about its unique architecture. What they were most eager for was a dive in the large pit, flowing with the spring's fresh mountain water. They waded and swam in it all day, accompanied by their caring mother. Unexpectedly one morning, their mother grew very ill and later was known to be victim of a malicious illness. No physician or shaman found a cure, and due to this terrible event, Habya and her brother became orphans. About a year later, the Sultan took to himself a new wife, and then began very dark times for the children. Their father didn't pay much attention to them, and because of his neglect, he didn't see them for weeks at once, leaving free range for his wicked wife to make their lives miserable and get rid of them. She began by forbidding the young boy to enter the palace and locked Habya in a sealed storeroom that had no furniture, no chair to sit, nor a bed to lay, just a dirty straw mattress facing a tiny hole up the wall, and an accursed door that only opened every once in a while by some servants sneaking leftovers for the poor child. Her brother slept outside, often in the kasbah's garden. He spent his days wandering around, mumbling tearfully a song that translates to, "Habya, Habya, my mother's and father's daughter, ran away and abandoned me." And although that statement was not true, Habya found grand comfort in hearing her sibling's voice every day. It kept her wishing that one day they might be reunited again. Their stepmother beamed after giving birth to a baby boy, securing his succession to the Sultanate by making sure to be rid of her cumbersome stepchildren was a successful plan. After they have lived thus a few years, Habya's younger brother grew to be a surprisingly handsome young man, still wandering around the kasbah, singing his sorrows aloud and passing time. As for the maiden Habya, grew up to be being concealed all these years, you can only imagine her state, a frail figure, and piled up dirt on her skin. She was completely unrecognizable. But what was flagrant is her hair. Her beautiful black hair that used to be groomed with great care, every morning and night by her late mother, was now a long, too long tangled mess that grew past her feet by 17.5 meters. Then, on a day like any other, Habya's slumber got suddenly interrupted by a curious sound. The young girl opened her eyes and perceived down on the floor what appeared to be a key, a rusty, bold key. Without any further thought, she swiftly took the heavy key, placed it into the lock and turned it as hard as she could. "I most certainly am dreaming," she whispered to herself before swinging the door open and hurriedly running towards her favorite place, the kasbah's garden. And whilst everyone was hiding from the sweltering heat, the young maiden dove into the spring's water covered with filth and rose into the most beautiful girl beneath the eastern sun. She scrubbed her skin vigorously and spent all afternoon combing her matted hair. Luckily, the silver comb her mother gifted her as a child waited for her in the same spot she'd left it. Until sunset, Habya, more radiant than ever, returned to her designated room and had a peaceful sleep that night. On the very next morning, farmers, villagers, and guards assembled in the Kasbah's main hall, waiting for the Sultan to complain. Habya's half-brother had newly ascended to the throne and was already a very disliked ruler. Many criticized his ostentatious character and stern justice, and some swore he was just plain mental. Striding across the hall, he scoffed, "You best have a serious reason for interrupting my morning." His minister approached him, bowed, and explained in the tiniest voice, "It's the water spring, Majesty, the cattle. They refuse to drink from the pit." "Then, what are you disturbing me for? Go seek to the matter right this moment," said the Sultan wearily. 2 guards returned later that day, holding a ridiculously long, black, single hair. "My lord, this hair interrupted the water flow from the spring towards the large pit," said one of the guards. "It was coiled around the spring's drain, Your Majesty," continued the other. The Sultan marvelled at this unique hair, picturing the maiden it might belong to, certain that a girl with such a feature must be the most beauteous creature in the nation. And spellbound, he commended, "Fetch me the owner of this hair, for whomever it belongs shall be my bride-to-be." In a brisk, all guards were deployed for the tracking, and every shelter searched thoroughly. It didn't take long before the secluded maiden was discovered, given a proper bath by servants, and dressed in the finest clothes before being brought, more radiant than ever, in front of the Sultan, who fell head over heels for her. A wedding ceremony was set for that same night. To his mother's great despair, she tried and tried to nip that blaspheme marriage, but in vain. The Sultan responded to his mother's refusal unabashed. "I don't comprehend your reasons, mother, but I will marry her even if she ends up to be my own sister," leaving everyone open-mouthed and just indignant by such a declaration. Her younger brother flew to see her at once after hearing the news. In a chamber, he found Habya cornered by a flock of servants, grooming and preparing her for the wedding, and as soon as she noticed him, she hurried towards him, took him aside, and whisperingly revealed a plan she's been plotting for them to escape. "Tonight, when the maids are about to comb my hair, you will steal the silver comb and run as fast as you can into the woods." Her brother agreed. And when it started to drop dark, according to his sister's instructions, he rapidly grabbed the comb and went slithering out towards the forest. "Oh no! My dearest comb, I won't accept any other. Let me go after him. I am the only one to whom he listens," uttered Habya loudly, and before anyone could answer or prevent her, the maiden was long gone after her sibling. The royal family got immediately informed, and soon everyone was chasing after them. Habya and her brother went far into the deepness of the forest, but the voices of their hunters alarmed them still. They helplessly started searching for a hideaway, but nothing would do, until Habya noticed a round and large, peculiar rock. She was instantly taken by an urge to climb on it, so she grabbed her brother's arm, climbed the rock, and intuitively started lilting. Heavenward, Orphan's Rock, Mother died, and Father junked. The rock quivered, it wriggled and grew higher and higher. A second later, They were up on a colossal-sized rock. Meanwhile, the Sultan, their father, and the entire court reached them. Unable to ascend the rock, their father's voice echoed, "Descend, Habya, listen to the thrumps, listen to the trills, and to all your cousins' cheers." To which she replied unblushingly, "Silence, father. As of today, you became my in-law. Oh, take me higher, orphan's rock." The Sultan attempted to. "Descend, Habya, listen to the thrumps, listen to the trills, and to all your cousins' cheers." And Habya responded, "Silence, brother. As of today, you became my husband. Oh, take me higher, orphan's rock." The orphan's rock executed and took Habya and her brother way out of reach. After a few more pointless attempts, the royal family left and never came back. Time flowed onward. The children found safe shelter on the orphan's rock, and when they got hungry, they both sang for it to shrink. Downwards, orphan's rock, mother died and father junked, and the rock lowered its size, just enough for Habya to throw her hair for her brother to descend, and asked it to take her up again. Heavenward, orphan's rock, mother died and father junked. Her brother begged for food in nearby villages all day, and arrived beneath the rock late in the evening, crying out loud, "Habya, Habya, throw me your hair." At the sound of her brother's familiar words, Habya asked the rock to descend again and let her hair fall down for her brother to climb up by it. They prospered in the forest until one day, bandits loitering around in the woods noticed the strange scene. It aroused their curiosity, and they decided to stay lurking nearby. Hiding behind trees and thick bushes to eavesdrop, they observed and learned by heart the exact words the young boy called on his sister with, and claiming that the maiden was of angelic assets, which can bring them a fortune if they manage to capture and sell her as a slave to a wealthy monarch. They managed to trick Habya one evening into believing it was her brother calling her, and unknowingly, the maiden lowered the rock and let down her hair, only to be abducted by the greedy thieves. A minute later, they were bound for one of the wealthiest nations on the land, and on arrival, they hurried toward the palace. When they got finally admitted in, they all bowed and uttered in one voice, "Long live the Sultan." "May I have permission to speak, my lord?" asked one of them. The Sultan raised a hand in approval. "We have brought you, your majesty, one of the most, if not the most beautiful young woman in the country," he proudly declared, presenting the terrified maiden. Quite astonished by the veracity of the description, he was instantly taken by compassion for Habya. Unlike most rulers, this sultan was known to be of great manners and kindness. It was, therefore, that he decided upon taking her as a wife, ensuring her protection, care, and respect among his court. But although her benefactor treated her well, Habya couldn't find any joy at all. Her only thought was of her dear brother, and he of her. The poor boy had the most poignant discovery the evening he came back, called on his sister, and received no response at all. In agony, he set off on a quest to find her. Driven by his hopefulness, he travelled from village to village and nation to nation calling, "Habya, Habya, my mother's and father's daughter, ran away and abandoned me." Years went on. Habya was, like every morning, sitting in the little garden next to the main gates of the palace. Accompanied by her maids, she spent hours combing her hair with the silver comb she kept dearly with her all this time. Some of the maids assisted her, while others ground wheat or spun wool. When a loud cry came from outside, a lullaby that brought melancholy to her heart, and was surprisingly familiar. "Stop the grinding. Don't make a sound. Do any of you know who's shouting out there?" urged Habya. "I heard it's a beggar, my lady. It's said that he came from a faraway nation, and he keeps repeating the same words over and over again," responded one of the maids. "Habya, Habya, my mother's and father's daughter, ran away and abandoned me. I think that's what I heard him lilt, madam," added another. Habya's comb dropped with a crash. She hastened towards the door and unlatched it. There, framed in the doorway, stood a man. She recognized instantly her younger brother. They ran into each other's arms in a capacious embrace and sobbed like children for hours until the Sultan's arrival from a patrol, outraged by the scenery of his wife in another man's arms, clenching his fist, he demanded reproachfully, "What is the meaning of this?" Habya then recounted their story word by word, leaving him stupefied. "Dear, you must have suffered exceedingly," he uttered in a cry. The Sultan later named Habya's brother as his first minister, acknowledging his dauntless tenacity and loyalty towards his sister, and they lived all together happily ever after. The end. Thank you so much for listening until the end. If you liked this story, let me know with a like, and if you have any suggestions, leave a comment. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. See you next week with a new one.